Part 3, The Story of Us, the Comfort Trap. Here's a strange thought experiment. Imagine you could take a hunter-gatherer from 200,000 years ago, someone genetically almost identical to you, and drop them into a modern city. Give them a desk job, feed them fast food, put them in cushioned shoes and a reclining office chair, sit them under fluorescent lights staring at a screen. How long before they get sick? The answer, based on everything we now know about evolutionary biology, is not very long. Because the body you are sitting in right now was not designed for this world. It was designed for a world of movement, scarcity, sunlight, and physical challenge. And the growing distance between what our bodies expect and what modern life actually delivers is quietly generating one of the greatest health crises in human history. This is the final chapter of our story, and it's the most urgent one. The fat paradox. Let's start with fat, because fat is at the center of everything. Humans are the fattest primate on the planet. A healthy adult man carries roughly 15% body fat. A healthy woman carries more. By comparison, a chimpanzee in the wild carries almost none. This isn't a flaw in our design. It was, for millions of years, one of our greatest survival advantages. Fat is the body's long-term energy bank. The reserve that carries you through famine, through illness, through the long dark months when the savanna offers little to eat. It fuels the brain. It sustains pregnancy and lactation. It keeps you alive when nothing else will. The problem is that we evolved this exquisite fat storage system in a world of scarcity, and now we live in a world of relentless abundance. For most of human history, the body almost never had to deal with a chronic energy surplus. Hunger was the normal state. Food had to be found, hunted, dug up, carried home. Today, in much of the world, calories are always available, cheap, engineered to be irresistible, and stripped of the fiber and structure that would normally slow their absorption. The result is a system that was built to store fat for lean times, now storing fat continuously because lean times never come. And not just any fat, the most dangerous kind, visceral fat. The fat that accumulates deep in the abdomen, surrounding the liver and other organs. Unlike the soft subcutaneous fat under your skin, visceral fat is metabolically ferocious. It dumps fatty acids directly into the liver, disrupting glucose regulation, promoting inflammation, and driving the cluster of conditions we call metabolic syndrome: high blood pressure, elevated triglycerides, insulin resistance, and eventually type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes was once so rare that doctors rarely saw it. Today it affects hundreds of millions of people worldwide, and those numbers are still rising. In India alone, diabetes rates are projected to double by 2030. This is not a genetic epidemic. Our genes haven't changed. What has changed is the environment those genes are running in. Sugar, fructose, and the industrial food machine. Here's a detail that puts the modern diet in sharp focus. For most of human evolution, the only concentrated source of fructose, fruit sugar, was actual fruit. And fruit is wrapped in fiber, which slows its absorption, blunts the insulin spike, and signals satiety long before you've eaten too much of it. Today, the average American consumes the fructose equivalent of dozens of pieces of fruit every single day. Not from fruit, but from processed foods and sweetened beverages, delivered in liquid form with no fiber, no chewing required, absorbed almost instantly into the bloodstream. High fructose corn syrup, invented in the 1970s and heavily subsidized, made this possible. Sugar prices collapsed. Consumption exploded. The liver, which is the only organ that can process fructose, was simply not built for this. Overwhelmed by the flood, it converts the excess directly into fat. Fatty liver disease, inflammation, insulin resistance. We are essentially conducting on an industrial scale an experiment in what happens when you radically outpace the limits of human biochemistry. The results are not good. And the food system isn't neutral in all this. It is actively working against us. Food engineers study the precise combinations of sugar, fat, and salt that maximize craving and minimize satiety. Every calorie is cheap. Every serving is supersized. Between 1955 and 2000, the calorie count of a standard fast food meal more than doubled. Soda consumption doubled since 1970 alone. In 2004, American children between the ages of 2 and 7 saw over 4,000 food advertisements on television, and fewer than 200 public health messages. The heart, the cancer, and the hormones. The cascade from visceral fat and metabolic syndrome flows outward into the cardiovascular system with brutal efficiency. Atherosclerosis, the slow accumulation of lipid-rich plaques inside artery walls, is partly an inevitable consequence of aging. But in modern populations, it's turbocharged by inactivity, poor diet, obesity, smoking, and chronic stress. Ancient mummified remains show early signs of arterial buildup. So it's not purely a disease of modern life. But the clinical heart attacks and strokes that now kill more people than any other cause, those are overwhelmingly a disease of the lifestyle mismatch. Cancer tells a related story. Certain cancers, breast, uterine, ovarian, prostate, are intimately linked to lifetime hormone exposure. Women in hunter-gatherer societies began menstruating later, became pregnant frequently, and breastfed for years. The result was perhaps 100 menstrual cycles over a lifetime. Women in industrialized societies with earlier puberty, fewer pregnancies, and shorter breastfeeding periods may experience over 400. Each cycle exposes breast tissue to estrogen. Each cycle is a small roll of the genetic dice. Obesity compounds this. Fat cells themselves produce estrogen, particularly after menopause. Obese postmenopausal women have dramatically higher breast cancer risk as a result. Physical activity throughout all of this turns out to be one of the most potent protective factors we know. It improves insulin sensitivity, raises the good cholesterol, reduces inflammation, lowers circulating reproductive hormones, and strengthens the cardiovascular system. It doesn't have to be heroic. Regular moderate activity, walking, cycling, swimming, produces measurable benefits across virtually every system in the body. And yet, fewer than a quarter of Americans meet basic exercise guidelines. The diseases of doing too little here is one of the stranger insights from evolutionary medicine. Many of our most common modern ailments are not diseases of excess or exposure, but diseases of disuse, conditions that arise not from too much, but from too little of what our bodies need to stay strong. Take bones. Human bones are living tissue, constantly remodeling themselves in response to mechanical stress. Walking, running, lifting, these activities send signals that tell the skeleton to maintain its density. Remove that stimulus, and bones thin. Osteoporosis, the silent epidemic that will cause 1 in 2 women over 50 to suffer a fracture, is in large part a disease of insufficient physical loading. Our ancestors' skeletons were denser and stronger than ours. Not because of better calcium intake, but because they used their bodies. Take teeth and jaws. For millions of years, hominins chewed tough, fibrous, unprocessed food, hour after hour, every day. That constant mechanical stress shaped the jaw, guided the growth of the dental arch, and ensured that teeth erupted in orderly alignment. Today, children grow up on soft, processed food, and the jaw never receives that formative stress. The result is smaller, underdeveloped jaws and teeth with nowhere to fit. Impacted wisdom teeth, crowding, malocclusion, these are not genetic failures, they are mismatched diseases. The archaeological record is clear. Before agriculture, straight teeth were the norm. Crooked teeth came with civilization. Take the immune system. It turns out that our immune systems, just like our muscles and bones, require stress to develop properly. For millions of years, human bodies coexisted with a rich community of microbes, parasites, and environmental organisms, what researchers call our old friends. These organisms helped calibrate immune responses, training the system to distinguish genuine threats from harmless substances. Modern sanitation and antibiotics, for all their life-saving benefits, have radically stripped that microbial ecosystem. The result may be a chronically overactivated immune system with nothing real to fight, turning instead on pollen, peanuts, and the body's own tissue. Allergies, asthma, and autoimmune diseases are all rising sharply in the most sanitized societies on Earth. The hygiene hypothesis, once controversial, is now mainstream. The comfort trap. And then there is the subtlest mismatch of all, the one hiding in plain sight, the one we don't notice because it feels so normal. We are sitting too much. We are wearing the wrong shoes. We are staring at screens inches from our faces for hours every day. Prolonged sitting is, in physiological terms, genuinely alarming. Within hours of sitting still, core muscles begin switching off, circulation slows, and metabolic markers worsen. Up to 90% of people worldwide will experience significant lower back pain at some point in their lives. And paradoxically, sedentary workers suffer more from it than people who do heavy physical labor. The spine evolved for varied, moderate movement. It was not built for 8 hours of lumbar slouch. Modern shoes, meanwhile, have been wrapping and cushioning and supporting our feet for so long that we've forgotten what feet are actually for. Thick-heeled, cushioned shoes blunt the sensory feedback from the sole, encourage a jarring heel-strike gait, and weaken the intrinsic muscles of the foot. The result: plantar fasciitis, bunions, flat feet, knee pain, shin splints. Barefoot walkers and people in minimal footwear consistently show lower rates of these injuries. And nearsightedness, myopia, now affects roughly 1 billion people globally, with rates rising fastest among children in East Asia and developed nations. The leading hypothesis is elegant and disturbing. Children who spend their days in close visual environments, reading, screens, indoor spaces, deny their developing eyes the varied optical stimulation of outdoor light that normal eye growth requires. The more time children spend outdoors, the lower their myopia rates. The treatment, glasses, is effective, but may perpetuate the problem by enabling the very behaviors that caused it. These are the quiet costs of comfort. They are not dramatic. No one dies of flat feet, but they accumulate across millions of people across lifetimes into an enormous burden of chronic pain, disability, and diminished function. What we do now. The solution across all of this is not to abandon modernity. It is not to throw away your shoes and forage for tubers. It is something more thoughtful and more difficult than that. It is to recognize that the human body has needs. Specific, evolved, non-negotiable needs for movement, for varied food, for physical challenge, for microbial exposure, for outdoor light and air, that modern environments systematically fail to provide, and then with that knowledge, to start changing the environments. Not through willpower alone. Willpower is vastly overrated as a public health tool. People consistently choose escalators over stairs because that's what the environment makes easy. The answer is to make the stairs easier, to tax the sugar, to put the fruit at eye level, to give children outdoor time as a protected part of every school day, to design cities and workplaces and schools that work with human biology rather than against it. We are the most culturally inventive species that has ever lived. We built the world that is making us sick. That means we can build a different one. Our bodies are ancient. They were shaped by millions of years of pressure and adaptation, of feast and famine, of running and climbing and digging and surviving. They are not fragile, but they need to be used. They need friction and movement and variety and challenge. As the biologist Daniel Lieberman puts it, we must learn to cultivate our bodies, the way a gardener tends a garden, not by wishing it to grow differently than it does, but by understanding what it needs and providing it. That is where the story of the human body, for now, ends. Not with a cure, with an invitation. We started this series standing on the edge of an African forest 6 million years ago, watching one creature take its first uncertain steps upright into an open and dangerous world. We end it here, in the present, sitting at desks, squinting at screens, eating food that comes in packages, in bodies that are quietly struggling to make sense of a world they were never designed for. That arc, from the savannah to the office chair, is one of the most astonishing journeys in the history of life on Earth. And the fact that we can trace it, understand it, and use that understanding to make better choices, that in itself is a testament to what makes us human. We are the only species that can study its own evolution and decide consciously to do something about it. So what do we do with all of this? The science doesn't ask us to live like hunter-gatherers. It doesn't tell us to throw away our medicine or grow our own food or sleep on the ground. What it asks is something both simpler and harder: to stop treating our bodies as if they exist outside of their own history. Your body has a story. It was shaped by 6 million years of walking, running, climbing, chewing, sweating, growing, and cooperating. It was built for movement, for challenge, for variety, for community. It thrives when it is used, and it quietly deteriorates when it isn't. The single most powerful thing the evolutionary perspective gives us is this: most of what is making us sick is not inevitable. It is not written into our DNA. It is written into our environments, and environments can be changed. More stairs, less sitting. More whole food, less engineered craving. More time outdoors, less time under fluorescent lights. More physical challenge woven into daily life. Less reliance on willpower to drag ourselves to a gym. These are not radical prescriptions. They are, in the deepest sense, a return, not to the past, but to what the body has always known it needs. Daniel Lieberman ends his book with a line borrowed from Voltaire: "We must cultivate our garden." It's a small, quiet image for a very large idea. A garden doesn't grow on its own. It needs tending, attention, knowledge, effort, and care. So does the body, not because it is broken, but because it is alive. You are carrying 6 million years of history in your body. Every adaptation, every trade-off, every scar of evolution, it's all there, in the way you walk, the way you breathe, the way your children grow, the way your heart beats. That history is not a burden, it is a guide. Use it well.